Finally, Friday is upon us. What a week it has been. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. I'm Kayode Kikilu here in Lagos.
And it's the 4th of October. One of the things I'm grateful for this morning is clement weather, and it seems as if the weather is defying all of the predictions about how the rains will come with more vengeance, particularly in the southwestern part of the country. But here we are with beautiful weather. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, it looks like it might just rain eventually today. You know, we're approaching the peak of the rainy season. So please check the weather forecast. So just stay right here on Channels Television. We'll give you the weather forecast for wherever you are in the country, just so you're prepared. But we can tell you for sure the weather forecast in Rivers State is...
a different kind of weather now.
Oh, yes, the political weather. The clouds are gathering. Right, and they've been gathering for months now, but it looks like this is getting to a head of sorts because tomorrow is meant to be the day for local government elections, depending on who you're asking, really. If you're speaking to the state government, River State Independent Electoral Commission, oh yes, tomorrow is the day for the local government election in River State. But if you're speaking to the PDP, the Martin Amiwole-led State Assembly, and some other, political leaders in the state, they'll tell you, nope. That election is not taking place. In fact, INEC itself and perhaps the security agency. So what exactly is happening in River State? Well, our correspondent has been reporting that at about 1 a.m., the River State governor is said to have foiled an attempt by the police, led by the Deputy Commissioner of Police, to take over the River State Independent Electoral Commission. It's just like the more things change, the more they remain the same. This is reminiscent of some of the events we've seen play out in River State. I'm talking 8 years ago and more. So that is what we have been reported from River State. It is the latest twist in this political drama. And we understand that the state governor, 1 a.m., get this, at 1 a.m., he's said to have foiled that attempt. We wait to hear from the police on this one, but clearly things are not looking very good, really, when it comes to the political situation in Rivers State. And for that reason, we understand that the governor is meant to give a statewide broadcast by 8 a.m. this morning. But this, honestly, the optics, it doesn't look good, Bukola.
Not at all, Kayode. And I'm wondering... which of the court orders the police is obeying or enforcing by this attempt to take over the River State Independent Electoral Commission office? Because there are 2 court orders, and it formed part of our conversation on the program yesterday, when we had 2 lawyers. There is a judgment by the High Court in the Federal Capital Territory ordering that all processes should not go on as planned for the River State local government election scheduled for tomorrow until RCX complies with the necessary procedures. And there is a state high court judgment in PHarcourt that says, yeah, they're fine. The local government elections can go on as planned. And here's the statement coming from River State as reported by a correspondent. The rogue policemen, according to them, were said to have attempted to scale through the gates and strong room of the commission to cart away sensitive electoral materials meant for the conduct of Saturday's local government election in the state. Now, if the police were to enforce the decision of a certain court for the elections not to go on as planned, it would have been understandable. But in this case, according to the reports, and we're hoping to get the visuals to back this up, they wanted to cart away sensitive election materials. So it leaves a very sour taste in the mouth, really. And the police force at the national level should respond to this, and give us clarity as concerns the political situation in Rivers State. Of course, we know that Saturday's election is really a battle of supremacy between the FCT minister and the state governor, Simlai Fubara. And we hope that there is a definitive end to this war of attrition, for lack of better description of what to call it, such that governance can go on in Rivers State in the interest of the people, not the interest of certain political rivals.
It's important to state that, and I really hope that this is in the interest of people. But from what we've seen, I mean, this is decades in this already in the Fourth Republic, it looks like most times it's not in the interest of people, of the people, right? So what we have right now is that the chief of staff, according to the report, the speaker of that's the Okojumbo-led assembly, state and national assembly members, alongside other stakeholders, are said to be manning the River State Independent Electoral Commission. But my concern, again, as Bukola has raised, is with the people. What are you making of all of this? If you're in River State, tell us, what is your take on this? Is this how you want your representatives, people in government, to carry on with that, well, the mantle you have given them? Because it's government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So that mandate you've placed in their hands, not mantle this time around, the mandate, is this how you want them to use it, to wield that power? So let us know, hashtag CTV Morning Brief. We're keeping a close watch on what's playing out in River State in the build-up to tomorrow. Whether or not that election will hold, we hope it will not be violent, but Channels Television is right there and will bring you the updates as soon as the governor of the state addresses the people of Rivers. But that's not all we have for you on the show this morning. Quite a package, and we're starting off with, well, the proposal by the federal government. It's actually a set of bills that was sent to the National Assembly to change the Federal Inland Revenue Service to the Nigeria Revenue Service, then the removal of VAT on petroleum products, and the new tax measures being introduced by the President Bola Tinubu administration. It's quite a lot, really, because there's a withholding tax bit which has been gazetted, there's this removal of VAT, but then there are new bills now presented before the National Assembly. Well, we're going to break down the new proposals and the possible implications for you on the show, while also keeping our eyes on the petroleum sector.
Indeed, it promises to be a productive conversation. And of course, I'm sure you're interested in this because when the petroleum sector sneezes, everyone in the country catches cold. But that's not all. This next one is an age-long conversation. It's about rotational presidency and, of course, the tenure of the presidency. And we know that that proposal is coming from no other than former vice president and candidate of the PDP in the 2023 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, proposing a single tenure of 6 years for the presidency and the rotation of the presidency to between the north and south geopolitical zone. So we're going to weigh this, especially against the backdrop of the fact that this has been coming from the National Assembly. A group of lawmakers had also proposed this at the beginning of the year. So how does it all play out, and how far will this go? Let's have that conversation together.
Yes, we're not just heavy on politics, though. We also touch on the softer side of things, as we say. Almost every girl dreams of being a beauty queen. Maybe every boy also thinks of dreams of being a prince or knight in shining armor. And, well, some get to live that dream from an early age. So on the show this morning, we sit with a teenage beauty queen. Yes, you heard that right. And find out what beauty means to the younger generation, right? The leaders of today, tomorrow, as the case may be, and how that is shaping their impact on the society.
That promises to be another exciting one as well. I'm, curious to know what goes on in the mind of a teenage beauty queen. So stay with us for that bit of the conversation. And, well, perhaps is it part of what you're thinking and writing about this morning? Share it with us, hashtag CTV Morning Brief on our favorite social media platform, X, but also we'll get your views covered on all the other social media platforms. So start the conversation, and after this break, we'll be bringing you the top stories on the brief. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The top stories on the brief at this hour. We begin with the very sad event in Niger State involving a boat. As the Niger State Emergency Management Agency says, 36 bodies have so far been recovered from the Niger boat accident. Well, this latest death toll comes as the Niger State Governor, Umar Bago, condoled with families of victims while also making his discomfort known over the recurring cases of boat mishaps in the state over the past few years. NSEMA's Director Relief and Rehabilitation, Mr. Saliu Garba, told Channels Television that the likely cause of the accident was overloading and that no one is sure of the exact number of people that boarded the ill-fated boat. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has condoled with the government and people of Niger State over the Gbadebo River boat accident. President Tinubu commiserates with the families of the victims and prays for the repose of the souls of the dead. A statement issued by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy to the President, Bayo Onanuga, says President Tinubu has directed the National Inland Waterways Authority to investigate the spate of boat accidents in Niger State and across the country and devise modalities to check the trend. The president ordered NIWA to expand the scope of its surveillance of inland waters to ensure people's safety and prosecute boat operators violating the ban on night sailing. We'll stay with the president, but on another issue now. He has submitted 4 tax bills to the National Assembly for consideration, among which is a bill intended to repeal the Federal Inland Revenue Service Act and establish the Nigeria Revenue Service. In a letter submitted to both chambers of the National Assembly during plenary, the executive bills would regulate taxation in the country and improve the country's revenue. Separately, still in the National Assembly, after 3 months of suspension, the South-South Development Bill, kicked against by a majority of the lawmakers, has once again been resuscitated. And in a sharp turnaround, we see that lawmakers began canvassing for its passage. Let's now show you what the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has been doing, particularly asking professional bodies in Nigeria to stand up and rescue the country from collapse. ASU President Professor Emmanuel Osodeke made the call at the union's State of the Nation conference in Abuja, where he blamed the political elites for the current state of the country. Also, the keynote speaker at the event, retired General Ishola Williams, put the blame on the masses on the flip side, whom he describes as the followers. Well, let's now bring you more on the political situation in Rivers State. Well, earlier on, before the incident and at midnight, and the eventual response from the police saying that, well, they're enforcing the court order. The River State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, says he regrets that his party, that's the People's Democratic Party, will not be taking part in this Saturday's planned local government election in the state. Governor Fubara made the comment during a meeting with some stakeholders of a party at the government house in Port Harcourt, where he said the election has to hold on Saturday to comply with a 3-month period of grace given by the federal government to begin the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. Also, in Rivers State earlier on, the Martin Amewole-led State Assembly had passed a resolution calling for the immediate suspension of the elections based on a federal high court judgment from Abuja. Now, all of these played out yesterday, but this midnight, we understand that the governor was at the River State Independent Electoral Commission, and the Chief of Staff, Okojumbo, and other political leaders in the state are said to be manning the State Independent Electoral Commission, while the police is said to have put out a statement saying that they were enforcing a federal high court judgment. At the end of the day, by 8 a.m. today, the governor will be addressing the state. So stay with Channels Television for the latest updates from River State.
By this voting, honorable members, the resolution is hereby passed that a letter should be forwarded to the chairman of the River State Independent Electoral Commission, directing him to suspend the proposed October 5th, 2024 local government elections because of the judgment of the Federal High Court and because of substantial non-compliance with the River State Independent Electoral Commission Law number 2 of 2018, and amongst other matters that have been deliberated upon in this hallowed chamber this morning.
And over to the courts now, where Justice Marian Anani of that's the FCT High Court rather, has issued a public summons against the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello, to attend court and answer to a fresh 16-count pending against him. By the summons, the former governor is to attend court on October the 24th in response to the summons and for his arraignment along with two other defendants. Justice Anani issued the order for public summons in a ruling following an application by the EFCC. Also ordered the agency to publish the public summons in a widely circulated newspaper. Speaking of former governors, the former governor of Taraba State, Darius Ishaku, has been granted bail to the tune of 150 million naira and two sureties in like sum. The two sureties must be resident in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, with their house addresses verified by the Registrar of the Court. One of them must be a director with the Federal Civil Service. The former governor was arraigned by the EFCC on a 27 billion naira alleged fraud case before Justice Silvanus Orji of the FCT High Court. He subsequently fixed November the 4th, 5th, and 13th for commencement of trial. I'll tell you that the federal government is introducing new tax incentives to attract $5 to $10 billion in investment for deep water offshore oil and gas operations. And this move is said to be part of efforts to boost the sector and strengthen the economy. In a statement, the special advisor to the President of Energy, Mrs. Oluvarin, highlighted the package, which includes tax exemptions on diesel, compressed natural gas, and cooking gas, aimed at supporting key investments in the sector. And outside the country, the U.S. is discussing strikes on Iran's oil facilities as retaliation for Tehran's missile attack on Israel. President Joe Biden has said, while Israel's military hit Beirut with new airstrikes in its battle against Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. And as Israel weighs its options after its arch foe Iran launched its largest ever assault on Tuesday, President Biden was asked whether he would support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities. Now, his comments about, discussing the strikes contributed to a surge in global oil prices, and rising Middle East tensions have made traders worry about potential supply disruptions. And sports news, the House of Representatives has passed a resolution to probe the abysmal performance of Team Nigeria at the Paris 2024 Olympics to forestall future occurrences. According to the resolution passed yesterday, the House expressed worry that none of the 82 athletes who represented the country returned with a medal. The lawmakers decried the huge budget of over 12 billion naira for the event, which yielded nothing. The House has also urged President Tinubu to establish a commission of inquiry on sports arbitration in Nigeria. Well, there you have it, the top stories at this hour, but that is not all. What have you been saying about these stories and other trending issues? Well, Bukola joins me now to do this. Bukola.
Well, Kadi, as far as trends, are concerned, this is not a very good day, not one of your favorites as a broadcast journalist, but hey, we have to report it as it is. From queuing up to collect bread as palliative to the boat mishap in Niger State, is just a tale of woes from different parts of the country. But we'll tell you what you are saying about these events, starting with that video that surfaced of Lagosians queuing up to collect bread. And ID Noble is the first person writing in this morning, and they say, I never thought a day like this can come in the heart of Southwesterners. Well, in the time of Southwesterners, maybe you mean to say, we detest begging. It's what we now do without shame. Kadi.
Well, there you have it. Said to be, bread shared by a politician, really, to people to commemorate Nigeria's Independence Day celebration. So I'm imagining that this is meant to be a kind gesture to people. Well, first you can see the crowd. It speaks to how much people need that bread. It speaks to the current situation. Well, some will say this was meant to be just a gesture from a politician and all of it. But some say, well, this just points to the deeper issues around this. And you could see the military had to be there to control the crowd. But there's a lot of things to really speak to this. So let's just take some more comments.
And you can see the crowd there, Coyote. As you said, it speaks to deeper issues about how poverty is being weaponized. I imagine that an empowered person will not need to queue up to collect bread. An empowered person will not stand by, in a long line of queues waiting for something as given as bread.
When you think about it, bread now is 1,000 naira plus, right? So this is vital. This is very important to the people, considering the price of bread. But I do hope that, yes, it is good. And well-meaning Nigerians, by all means, this is a time to also give. But I hope we deal with the root issues as well. So this is not weaponized eventually during elections. We saw that playing out in Edo State. So you know that this is a formula. If you want to get people to do something, throw these things at them. So yes, while we may commend the act given, but we should deal with the issues at the heart of it as well.
All right.
There are a lot of other comments to this one. You've been talking about it, but let's show you another issue entirely. And this has been trending on social media for a while. Concerns VDM, Bob Risky, the Falanors, the EFCC, the Nigerian Correctional Service. Yes, it's a lot, and I imagine that you're aware of this. But for the very first time, the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has spoken up about what exactly transpired and what is expected to come next. He was speaking exclusively with Channels Television on our program Politics Today. So I'd like you to listen to senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, on the Bob Risky VDM matter, and then, of course, we'll bring you more trends. Take a listen.
I think it's a question of infantile radicalism. Some of our young people are just not prepared to look at the provisions of the law with respect to the law on defamation. So they just simply go out there to embarrass people. I can say this without any fear of contradiction. I have assisted 280 people, convicted people, at home and abroad, to get pardon.
What are you doing to establish your innocence in what has been an allegation on this matter?
No, Seun. Brisky never spoke to me. I have never met him. I do not know him from Adam. It was alleged to have spoken to my son, Falani Fars. Yes, my son said this guy was appealing to people for assistance, and he called my son, I think on May 4 thereabout this year. Please, can you give me 3 million naira to be placed in a special part of the prison? We call it the VIP section. And my son asking, are you calling me under the authorization of the superintendent of prisons? He said, no, please, don't call me again. I'm unable to assist you to bribe the prison authorities. And be very careful, since you're already in jail for an offense. Please, if you are going to come in next time, you either do it through the superintendent or you write a letter endorsed by the prison authorities. And that was the last. Somebody now said they listened to a tape somewhere and went out to lampoon and rather defame me by saying the guy had spoken to me. Of course, we are going to examine the call logs. And my son has also said, this was the guy who originated a call to me. My son has never negotiated fees.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria there, Femi Falana, providing clarity as to what exactly happened. So it appears now that there's a surfeit of evidence for the House of Representatives or the National Assembly as a whole investigating this matter between Bob Risky, the Correctional Service, and the EFCC. Yeah. From there, we go to another matter this morning, just as disturbing, maybe even more so, the spate of boat accidents, the one coming from Niger State on Wednesday. Channels TV has been able to obtain a video of that boat while it traveled on the river. Let's take that video first, and then we'll take your reactions.
lots of things wrong with this, what's playing out here in this video. This was just before the boat eventually capsized. This was, I think, when they took off. And you can see no single life jacket on any of the
anyone.
No, and you can see how much. This is a boat. You'd almost think that this was in a hall or in a room, but this is actually on a boat. So there's the overloading bit. I can't count, but I mean, we understand that there were hundreds of people on that boat, which should have maybe carried 100 plus, but up to maybe 200 plus. I said to have been on that boat, up to 300 actually. So Channel Television got this exclusively, and it just paints a picture.
If there were 50 people on this boat, I wouldn't travel on it. You know, and that's just for a lot of people to think about. And a lot has been said about how the National Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA, should be doing more about boats traveling on water. But what about state authorities? There is a state transport authority here in Lagos that regulates water transport. We could talk about the boat mishap that occurred in Kwara State sometime last year. That was, you know, a tragedy that needed not to have happened. So where are the state transport authorities that would regulate water transport to see to it that these kinds of boats, you know, there was talk about this boat being a very old one, do not travel on water.
And this has, I mean, led to the loss of lives, avoidable, we should say. While this needs to be investigated, we've had too many boat mishaps. You can almost predict that every other month you'll get a report of boat mishaps. But let's see what Nigerians have been saying about this particular one. Well, the president has ordered an investigation into this one, and more importantly, ensure that this does not happen again. So there's probably another boat being boarded in some part of the country, about to be overloaded, without life jackets, maybe traveling at night, all of those things.
Without what passenger manifest, all those, there must be regulation as far as you know, water transport is concerned in states. And you know, some people would want to resort to maybe traveling on water, perhaps because it's cheaper, or maybe they get to their destination faster, or perhaps because the roads are bad, and you know, the fear of traveling at night on road because of the danger of attack or kidnapping. So there must be some more regulation. State governors must do better by their people in regulating water transport. We can't say that enough.
Absolutely. So there you have it. It just paints a picture of what played out. We'll, of course, follow up with this story, get more updates, and ensure that the authorities do right by the people. So a lot of people have been speaking about it. As we said, Baba Jido said not a single life jacket in sight. What a shame. Gabriel has also put up a statement about the capacity of the boat and no one wearing life jacket. But we'll move on to another matter that has been in the trend. And this one might excite road users, Bukola.
Yes, this one will definitely put a smile on someone's face. A federal high court in Abuja has put in place a ruling that prohibits the VIO from stopping vehicles on the road, seizing or taking possession of vehicles, and levying fines on drivers. There must be a better way of regulating, commuting on roads. This intervention of the court will go a long way, but will it solve the problems? There is the challenge of articulated vehicles on the road. Exactly.
So it's like two rights or two wrongs, right? That we're trying to make it right. So there's a challenge of the articulated vehicles, a lot of them not roadworthy. Commercial vehicles as well. Yellow buses, maybe in Lagos, other colors in other states. They are not passenger worthy, road worthy, even animals worthy. Those things should not be conveying animals, but you see them on the roads. Right? Some of them are bent. Some are facing one way, but they are moving another way. I'm sure you've seen those vehicles. They're facing this way, but they are moving this way.
They're moving that way.
And you're confused.
I thought I was the only one.
Exactly. Some are approaching you on the other side, but it looks like they're going that way. It's just mind-boggling. And you expect that these are the issues that the vehicle inspection authorities...
And some of them look like the container will fall off at any time.
Moment.
And you do right by yourself by just staying behind until the road is clear for you to,
get past them. So these issues are there that need to be resolved. But what you find out a lot of times is that the officials now abuse the power, and they're, targeting, road users, innocent road users. Again, there's a third wrong: people who don't have their papers complete. Right. So that helps them perpetrate that illegality in that sense. So the court has come in, but we need to ensure that these issues are solved as well. First, those vehicles are not roadworthy. Those officials who are abusing the power, and the vehicle owners who don't have complete papers or are using vehicles that are not roadworthy.
But there must be, a better way. We can use technology, to regulate road activity. So we must go past this analog system, that's obnoxious and causes delay on roads. But who's speaking this morning? Nigerian Lens is the first, and they say their job henceforth should be to inspect roads if the roads are worthy for vehicle.
That's a fourth wrong.
Use.
The road is not even worthy sometimes.
Right? Instead of inspecting vehicles for roadworthiness.
And Chuk Sandy says to enforce it, will be the hardest thing to do. Secondly, if this is actually authentic, motorists should be well educated on this.
And Annie Upana says, I remember when VIO being the tormentors, well, he went the colloquial way, for not for Ikorekpene Road, you go need to go turn. It's like using Calabar ITU to get to where you're going. Well, I believe that those who live in that part of the country understand exactly what you're
saying. Where that place is.
Yeah.
So we need to ensure our car papers are complete. We need to ensure that our vehicles are inspected. And to the officials, they need to ensure that they are law-abiding. So now that we have this ruling from the Federal High Court in Abuja, or this order barring the Directorate of Road Traffic Service, otherwise known as VIO, from further stopping vehicles on the road, impounding them, or imposing fines on motorists, we need to ensure that this law is obeyed. Okay? Let's talk about this rotational presidency bid. Oh, yes, this is another user saying this is good news. VIO shouldn't exist in the first place. Okay. They're just duplication of the work of the FRSC. Well, that is really debatable.
And suffice it to say that this is not the first time the court is intervening in this space to try to provide clarity on which state government agency or federal government agency should do what.
Well, FRSC, as the name implies, Federal Road Safety. Right. Mm-hmm. And then there's a vehicle inspection bit. Maybe they can merge them and all of that, but I think these roles are very, very important and they need to be done properly. So let's just give you one more. It's quite a lot trending, but this rotational presidency bit by a former vice president and the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has gotten a lot of people talking. Well, he wrote a letter to the Senate asking them to consider a 6-year presidential term. Right now, what we have is 4 terms. You can do it twice.
Renewed.
Exactly, but imagine this one is 6. But single tenor. So Precious Canning says it doesn't matter if they stay in power for 8 or 6 years. Bad leadership and corruption are our central problems. Another concern, this user says, is if this proposition is truly for the good of Nigeria or the ambition of the author. Okay.
Another piercing one, typical of our writers. This next one is from Balatic, who says, that would help solve some of the bigotry. Yes. Well, maybe if you're talking about the rotational presidency bit of the proposal, it should start from the 3 zones yet to produce a president since 1999, North Central, Southeast, Northeast, North Central. We've had, I believe, a military administrator from the North Central in the past, maybe not under the dispensation of democracy.
Yeah. So this would always be a challenge. You can almost predict the point of argument. So there's this zoning. There's north, south. And then there's a micro zoning, Bukola. Mm-hmm. That's where you get all of the North Central, Southeast, Northeast, and all of that. So this will be a very interesting conversation. And guess what? We have it for you on the show this morning to help you understand what the thinking is, what the possibilities are, the pros and cons. So not to worry, we'll help you understand this. And just let me take this one from Hustlepreneur, that's Idolax, and saying the best thing that can happen to Nigeria, and I have been an advocate for this for a long time. That's this user saying it's the best thing that can happen, and this user says it's been advocating for it. Not my words, just to be clear. Saying the cost of electioneering is too expensive for every 4 years, while politicians don't use more than 5 years of their 8 years 2-term tenure for governance. Some will say it's even less. So they say the first year of the 4 years is used for litigation and to maybe settle, all of the things that happened, maybe 1.5 years. And then from the 3rd year right, they start preparing for the next election.
For the next election.
So that leaves about 1 year, 2 years for governance.
For governance. And the last year is spent on governance. And you can tell,
or election,
that the executives at that time are distracted with electioneering issues and not particularly focused on governance. And governance suffers.
So maybe that's a pro?
The favorite part of this writer's comment is the cost of electioneering, and we must reflect on that as a nation.
$1 billion almost last time out.
And we still have issues, endemic issues of poverty and the economy performing very, very dismally. Well,
there's another user who says that, that's Mekano Bukola.
Mekano says, why must it be rotational? Candidates from wheresoever should be free to contest. Well, that's another part of the conversation. But some people say competence is everywhere, in every part of the country, and so opportunity must be given for expression from every part of the country. But we get you, whoever is competent, regardless of where they come from.
So I think
that's the beauty of democracy.
Exactly, and it's a very interesting debate. I think we've had it for quite a long time, really. So should it be competence, strictly, or representative in that sense, federal character kind of representative, right? People will say you have these competent people across the country. So some have said, let's merge this. Okay, let competence play a big role, and let this representation or federal character also play a major role in this. So I will be interested to see, one, will the National Assembly consider the former Vice President's proposal? Right? His party is not in majority. So I think it targeted the Deputy Senate President, right? So will that be escalated? Would it then be considered in the Constitution review? That's one. When it goes around the country, how will the state assemblies
vote?
If it even goes around the country, if it's considered.
If it gets past the National Assembly in the first place.
So how will they vote for it?
Some lawmakers have already proposed this, at the beginning of this year. So it's sort of speaking to some portion of the converted. Maybe not all of them are converted.
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes.
Let's see. Don't forget, there's also the regional government bit. It looks like there's a lot to really look at and sort of tweak in the country. But as we said earlier on, we're going to be giving you a breakdown of what it entails right here on the show. There's been another video trending online, and it's concerns of, the customers of a bank. A lot of them said they couldn't use the application, they couldn't get access to their money. So what they did was, they approached the bank and sort of organized a mini protest at the gate of the bank. I know Nigerians can give you tales about their experience with banks, from the charges deducted, and they're wondering, I don't even know why I'm being charged for this, to the network. Right, you transfer money or you make purchase, you buy credit, for example, maybe you want to load your prepaid meter and you're not credited.
And there's no reversal.
First day, second day, and you expect that this thing should be noticed, right? Money was deducted, service was not provided. So I can tell you this, Nigerians have a lot to say. So you understand why these customers organized that mini protest. If we could just show you what's played out at the gate of the bank, actually as a result of what they describe as frustration trying to access their money. So there you go.
I've been quiet since. Yes, it's happening. All that they do. What kind of problem is this? I cannot get my money. We hospital trace out without money.
Let's go this back. No.
I will scatter this place. I'm going to bring my child now. Let me attend to her. I just stay quiet since.
We get your thoughts, we get your concerns, and we've been able to amplify it. That's what gladdens my heart here.
The regulators have a role to play in this.
Yes, and the banks, the bank in question has gotten the message. We hope that they do better by their customers, the generality of their customers, not just in the state where this video is coming from, but everywhere across the country. The banks must do better, but particularly because of the quantum of charges that we've already talked about, that they deduct for all forms of transactions, which really need not be.
And the customers, they go for the AGMs, or at least they see the profit declared, and they do the math and say, okay, fine, my bank is doing well, so the least I should get is quality service. Across the board. Quality service, maybe reduction in these charges as well. And you will hear that the banking sector is one of the most regulated. right? The banking sector is one, just like aviation sector. The banking sector is also really regulated. So these things should not be happening. I understand that there was a notice given for some sort of maintenance and all of that. But for these customers, they said they've had these things happen time and again, and they were curious about the timing and the length of this, glitch in code. So we hope the regulators are watching and they will do right by the customers, as well as the banks, the commercial banks in Nigeria. I think it's one of the healthiest sector of our economy. So that health should translate to the customers.
A stark contrast to what's happening in the real sector and to the reality of Nigerians as a whole. As far as the economy is concerned, the banks are cashing out. So the banks should do better, particularly what they call the first generation and second generation banks. They really are doing well. So it should translate at least in quality service to the customers.
Absolutely. So keep your comments coming in. #CTV Morning Brief. If there's anything that you think the nation, the world should know about, send it our way and we'll definitely amplify your voice as we've done to the voices of these Nigerians. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we're starting off with the big topic of the day. This will interest you as a...
Welcome back to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. And as we start off, we're focusing on the petroleum sector with specific view to looking at the tax modification order by Mr. President, which is supposed to provide exemption to deep offshore operations, and it would impact on products, commodities like diesel, feed gas, LPG, CNG, electric vehicles. So what will this all amount to, particularly with the objective of bringing down the cost of living? And that is contained also in the announcement as disclosed by the Minister of Finance. So joining us to have this conversation, we have Mr. Martin Onovo, a petroleum engineer. Good morning and welcome to the program, Mr. Onovo.
Good morning.
So let's start off this way. It's described as the bread and butter of the Nigerian economy, the oil industry, but it's not necessarily providing enough bread and butter on the table of Nigerians. And that would be, the immediate focus of Nigerians as far as this tax modification order is concerned. So how will this VAT exemption, how significant is this VAT exemption? What would it amount to in terms of reduction in the price of these commodities? Should Nigerians be optimistic about this?
Well, let us look at it in the most simplistic way. Tax is a cost. Tax is a cost. If the VAT waiver takes effect, it reduces directly the cost of the product by the same very value of tax. So, yes, will it reduce cost of product? Yes, because tax is a cost. And once you remove tax, you have removed a cost item. So, to the extent of the tax you have removed, to that extent, the cost of product will be less. So it is that simple.
But how significant will the reduction be, particularly, for manufacturers who are expecting that if diesel is covered under this tax modification order, then maybe the price of diesel will come down. So will it come down to maybe 800 naira? Then for feed gas, LPG, cooking gas is about 15,000 naira now. So how significant will it be to bring down the price of cooking gas maybe to 10,000 naira? Should we be that optimistic? And we could also talk about the other products in that value chain as well.
Well, VAT is 7.5%. So just remove the 7.5%. But there are other issues. The bureaucracy of FIRS, there's a cost to it. There's a cost to it. So it might not be exactly 7.5, because if you remove 7.5% VAT cost, and then you increase management cost by 1 or 2% in terms of bureaucracy, not a policy increase, then it will reduce the effect of the 7.5%, because the VAT management bureaucracy in FIRS, in and out, monthly returns, it's elaborate. It's elaborate, but in idealistic terms, if you remove 7.5% VAT, then your cost goes down by 7.5%. It is that simple, and you can apply it to your product cost. That is in the most idealistic terms.
As I think the point here is for Nigerians, and we can talk about the tax incentives, developing the sectors, whether offshore and all of that. But they just want to know, when I want to buy diesel, would it be cheaper? All the English that government is speaking, when I want to buy cooking gas, will it be cheaper? Because Nigerians can really do with reduce costs on their pockets when they go to market and all of that. The question is, from your experience, and I know you're an insider, so imagine you've had conversations with players. From your experience, when policies like this are announced, what is the biggest challenge for implementation and for people to begin to feel the impact? Because we've had different policies announced, for example, this import waiver bit, and a lot of people were expecting that the price of food item will drop drastically, but it hasn't really impacted as much, particularly from that end. So what is usually the challenge when measures like this are announced, incentives are announced, and everybody's celebrating it, but months down the line, you don't see the impact?
You can expect a direct reduction of the same margin, like I said. If you remove a 7.5% VAT, you expect a direct reduction in your cost of 7.5%. It's not more complicated than that. That's number one. But there are other impacts, because you can't use a single factor to analyze a multi-factor phenomenon. I've talked about bureaucracy. The FIRS bureaucracy, the tax management bureaucracy. If that creates additional costs for you in managing the removal, in reporting, in monitoring, in reviews, in investigations, that's also a cost item. And what happens sometimes when you don't feel the effect is that you remove on one side, you add on a different side. So this needs a much more comprehensive review and appraisal. But like I said, all things being equal, if you remove a 7.5% VAT, you have a direct 7.5% reduction in your cost. But VAT is not only your cost item. So if costs grow in other areas,
right,
then it will compensate for the one you have removed. But ideally, you remove 7.5% VAT, you can remove 7.5% from the cost of your cooking gas. So we can do the arithmetic. If you're buying 12,000 and you remove 7.5, 10% will be 1,200. So 7.5 is going to be like 900. So
right.
you expect a 900 naira reduction.
At least.
Indeed.
Okay, and that's if all things are equal, as they say, all things being equal in economics.
Exactly.
And that's why I raised that question about
point.
the hurdles, the challenges we've seen in the past when policies like this are announced and implementation becomes an issue. So we can watch out and basically police the authorities, the agencies that are meant to implement this. But I want us to talk about another bit of this conversation, because when we mentioned diesel and gas, I imagine people are wondering, talk about petrol too, right? Is there anything in it for petrol? Obviously not, at least from this particular measure. But there's another bit that a lot of people are looking to, and this is the elephant in the room. The refinery is getting ready. Again, we'll come to another point, but let's talk about this. September has come and gone. No show for PHarcourt Refinery. I don't know if you saw this coming. Tell us, maybe you did, and what are the signs you saw? But I want you to advise Nigerians. Should we just stop expecting and move on to other things, right? Because it's important to manage these expectations. You are promised, and these promises fail from time to time, so that we don't get our hearts broken totally. Should we just, tune off from this and pay attention to other things, or continue to hold government accountable?
Well, the first thing is that we cannot plant mediocrity and expect excellence. We've discussed the PHarcourt Refinery and the project management issues here before. And like I said, the project management has been very poor, extremely poor. I also suspect a lot of corruption, because some of the problems on the project will ordinarily not occur. And there have been several diverse problems on the projects. There have been industrial relations issues. There have been delayed payment issues where contractors say we cannot continue work because we have not been paid. So all those general project management issues have contributed. There has been poor planning because of the political pressure. We want it done immediately, and then everybody runs off without planning, and then that meets you on the way. So there are diverse small problems which could have been easily prevented with planning and robust project management. Then there is the issue of funding. Funding, for which I suspect a lot of corruption, because let me give you an indication. The Tema refinery in Ghana, the two phases cost $360 million for the turnaround maintenance. PHarcourt is supposed to cost us $1.5 billion. So that's 5 times. That's 5 times. And yet we have these scheduling problems and funding problems. So I also think it will not be proper to analyze any Nigerian project, public project, without factoring corruption, because we agree that corruption is endemic. Everybody agrees. So if corruption is endemic and we tolerate it like we do, there are consequences. So when the consequences come, the media should not lament, because the media could have prevented the problems from day one. If the media we are a little bit more critical. Because,
well, Mr. Nova, Mr. Nova,
if you look at other projects,
hello,
yes.
Mr. Nova, I wonder if that would be fair on the media, because time and again, we ask these questions of the NNPCL, demanding that they come through with answers on the failure of the deadlines, many deadlines that they failed to meet the Port Harcourt operational target. And of course, we ask questions of its interactions also with Dangote Refinery, but they do not come through. And it is due to the diligence of the media that we had the revelation by human rights activist Mr. Femi Falana yesterday that questions must be asked of the Italian firm and the Nigerian firm Saipem on the contract awarded for the Port Harcourt Refinery and the failure to deliver on the promised date. And that's where I'm headed, for you to react to these issues. What would it take for Nigerians to get that accountability required of the NNPC to speak to these issues? And of course, from Mr. President as well, who happens to be the Minister of Petroleum.
I want to agree with you that the media has asked the questions. But I'm saying that you don't start asking the questions when it has gone bad. Like we say in English, prevention is better than cure. From the beginning, because a project does not just commence with field activities. There is scoping, there is contractor selection, there's all that. And if you get any of that wrong, then that follows you through the project. So doing professional work takes a lot more than that. And I can use another example that may be better. I mean, the Lagos Coastal Road, it is costing about 13 times what it should cost. And the media do not say they were not aware. I've also mentioned that on Channels TV, that there is no way you're doing 47 kilometers for 1.06 trillion. There is no way. We have used the African Development Bank standards. We have used the existing completed projects in Nigeria. We have used the bill of materials. There is no way. That contract is overvalued to a minimum of 10 times. And I'm saying that similar things may have happened in the Port Harcourt Refinery. And I just gave you the one index, which is the Ghana Tema Oil Refinery and their own turnaround maintenance. So, but because I'm not on the project personally, I can't give fine details. But you can compare. Anybody can do that. You don't even need to be an engineer to do that. And that's my point about the media, because it also goes with your political leadership. A semi-illiterate, morally bankrupt political leadership, you do not expect them to deliver world-class quality projects. But in this country, world-class quality projects are being delivered. The issue is that when it's a public project, because of the politics and the corruption, then you must pay the price, and that is the price you're paying.
All right, Mr. Novo.
It's that simple.
Right.
One more sentence. One more sentence.
Go ahead, please.
Professor Niyo Shumbare said, incompetence weds corruption. And I think we need to think about it. And if you ask me, I agree with him, and I want to add that there is also lawlessness and impunity in addition to that. So there are consequences. You do the wrong things, you get the wrong answers. You do the right things, you get the right answers. Thank you.
Right. Well, I think it's important to put these things in perspective. So we fix the problem. The media, I can tell you about us, we do our bit, day in, day out, right? We do our bit. So I think it's important to speak to those who now have the job to do. There's a Minister of Petroleum, there's a Minister of State, there's a National Assembly. They have their oversight functions. Then we can talk about the NNPC Limited, the contractors, even the people. We will keep telling the stories. We'll keep following the stories, putting the facts out there. That's why we're having this conversation with you. So maybe if you have a certain section of the media or a particular media you have issues against, maybe that's the case. But I can tell you categorically that we have stayed with this before, during, and perhaps if there's an after, we'll be right here. I want you to also speak to this point, Mr. Novo. So there's been the attention on CNG now, right? So the president or the presidency is leading, giving out buses, tricycles, and all of that, saying CNG is a much better option. And we've had people speak about their experience, saying, well, it costs them 100,000, for example, to travel from place to another place. But that's for petrol. But when they use CNG, it costs them less than 20,000. So clearly, that is cheaper. So I want you to speak to us about what then happens to this. Well, Dangote refinery bits, the talk about petrol, the Port Harcourt refinery bit, all of the investment that has been put into that to at least get petrol as well as other derivatives. What then happens to it? What is the future really? Was that a good investment decision?
Well, we don't have enough time to go to the details, so I will talk in general terms. The first thing is that the alternative of CNG is a good idea. The technology has been here for 50 years before I was born, so it's not novel. That's number one. But it's here, it's available, it's an option. I think we should utilize it. But for governments to propose it as a substitute to petroleum PMS, I think that's in the long term. That's number one. Because your question is packed. There are too many questions. There is market for petroleum products here in the West Coast. So whether we do not use, if the Port Harcourt Refinery is working, and like Dangote is working now, and we can refine every drop of crude oil and stop exporting crude oil, that's better for us. Because in the value chain, refined product is approximately 2 times the value of raw crude. So you are getting a lot more national revenue, assuming in the idealistic, incompetent mode of the government that we eliminate PMS use in Nigeria, that's petrol, and then we are all on CNG, which to me is not feasible because the cost of even a conversion is very high and unaffordable. So there are many obstacles, and you can't have this low quality of people. I call them semi-illiterates. If you look at Jagaban Tinubu's INEC form, he said primary school, nil. Secondary school, nil. So I don't expect the media to think that he can compete on the world stage. It's that simple. And if he has the authority to be controlling the professionals, then it is his decision. And then he needs to have the competence to make the best decisions. And to me, with primary school nil, secondary school nil, you can't make the right decisions. And there are consequences for this. So what I have noticed is that we do the wrong things, then we start worrying about the consequences. But if we did the right things at the issue, there will be no consequences. Everywhere else, the refineries in Niger Republic, they are working. I have a kinsman who just came back from Burkina Faso. And he complained about his phone and battery every time. I said, what is wrong with you? Get a power bank. He said in Burkina Faso, there is no power bank. They're always able to charge their phones. That's what he told me. I've not been to Burkina Faso, but he told me that if you import a power bank to Burkina Faso, nobody will buy it. So now you look at Ghana, the refinery works. So we come here and we have all these discussions perpetually, and we're just discussing, and we're pretending to be responsible when we are just very corrupt. And the indices are there, so we can't even deny. That's the fact. So we need ethical integrity. It is critical. We need competent people. It is very critical. And if we do not give it the attention it requires, then we will pay the consequences whether we like it or not. That's my emphasis.
And you know, Mr. Novo, your message has been taken by those who should know, either directly or by proxy. And yet again, that speaks to the diligence of the media. There's so many other legs to the conversation, particularly about CNG. We could talk about the penetration levels, the needed infrastructure to get to, you know, the domestic consumption needs that we require to exit the fossil fuels regime, but we must anchor at this point. And thank you very much for your time and contribution on the program. Mr. Martin Onovo, petroleum engineer, has been speaking to us on this VAT modification order of the president. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Onovo.
Thank you very much.
And from here, we move on to the next leg of our conversation, which would be that proposition of single tenure presidency by former vice president. But before then, we'll quickly touch on Rivers State and follow up on this developing story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
This election, as the greatest loser, my party is not participating. But because of the Supreme Court ruling that there must be elected officials to manage the affairs of local government, I have, as a president, as a governor, I have to obey them. It did not end there. The president, after the Supreme Court invited us, and we had an understanding that to have a compliance duration of 90 days. So what we're doing here is to make sure that even if my party is not participating, the council process must stand for it.
So that was yesterday, right? The governor was speaking, but he wasn't this calm at midnight today, just after midnight, where we understand that he visited the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, RISEC, and he was quite livid. Well, he said that some police officers were trying to take over the State Independent Electoral Commission. So he went with his people. You had the Okojumbo group and others. And we understand that they're keeping watch now, and even the chief of staff, right? So let's touch base with our correspondent, Charles Operum, and get exactly what is going on in Rivers State. Charles, I know it's been a very long morning for you, but just speak to us. What is going on, Charles?
Indeed, my morning started very early. And yes, I am standing in front of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. If you look behind me, you'll see that there are people here, and they are keeping watch. They say they are providing their own security to make sure that the police does not break into the facility to truncate the election. Earlier, some of the videos I sent in, you hear them chanting election must hold. Even as they are singing now, the song that they're singing is election must hold. The speaker of, the speaker of the pro-Fubara lawmakers, Victor Okojumbo, is here. The chief of staff, Edison himself, is here. And of course, another member of the pro-Fubara lawmakers, Big Boy, is also here, alongside their supporters, chanting, singing, saying that the election must.
Well, not to worry. We'll try to reconnect with Charles Operum. It's quite an eventful morning there in Rivers State. We understand that things got a bit rough earlier on with our correspondent, Charles Operum. So we understand he's safe now, and he was just speaking to us, as you heard. So we'll reconnect with him. But Bukola, what is playing out in Rivers State, as I had said earlier on, is reminiscent of what we'd seen in the previous time out. There's always some sort of issue with politics in Rivers State. The governor himself was asking why, when he spoke earlier on, a clip that will show you eventually, was asking why Rivers State. So you wonder what exactly is the issue that we have this perennial, or reason that we have this perennial issues in Rivers State.
And this is the time when I miss Jeffrey, who is quite familiar with the issues in Rivers State. And Jeffrey would say that the politics of Rivers is not for the faint-hearted. And that is so true. It's a good thing that Charles is safe, but there was some report earlier on that he may have been attacked. And we'd like him to speak to that. We understand that Charles is back now. Hello again, Charles. Charles, speak to us about what exactly happened. It's good to know that you're safe now, but how or who attacked you in the first place, and why?
Okay, so when I arrived here, I tried to get some shots, and somebody attacked me. I think they must have mistaken me for someone else. But eventually, I think it was Sokari who came out and said to them, no, let's take the Channel TV report.
We apologize for that hitch. We'll try to get Charles back. But it will also be very important at this point to know what the police is saying in River State and to get clarity exactly about what their role would be in the River State local government election that is supposed to take place on Saturday. That will be tomorrow, October the 5th. We want to know whether or not they'll be abiding by the Federal High Court judgment or the River State High Court judgment. But we told you earlier on that, the state governor was not very happy, particularly after midnight, when, according to a statement issued from the state government, they foiled an attempted move by the police to overtake the office of the River State Independent Electoral Commission. And Kayode, were saying earlier on, that we're talking about the volatile nature of the politics in River State. We could talk about many years down the line when some reporters have been attacked and the only escape by the whiskers. The intensity of the politicking in River State, particularly during campaigns. Now, when will River State exit this, period of, battles of supremacy between political rivals and all of that?
Let's reconnect with Charles now. Quite a very important background laid there. But Charles, go ahead, please.
Yes, as I was saying, it was Sokari Good Boy, a member of the House of Assembly, loyal to the governor, who came out and identified me. Even they saw my ID card. I have my ID card pinned on myself, and then he said, "Oh no, allow him. He's a reporter. Let him go." And that's how the people who surrounded me let me go. So it was that's one thing. But right now, I'm they're still there. And they are keeping watch, keeping video. They say they are going to be here until the election holds. Howdy.
Oh, Charles, we understand that there was some incident at midnight, just past midnight, around 1 a.m. The governor going to Risiek with his people, saying that the police was trying to take over, and he's made some strong statements against the IGP, even Justice Lifu there. Can you speak to us about what exactly transpired, what the police is saying about that incident, and what you know?
Okay, yes, indeed. The videos are everywhere. The governor came here when they heard that the police had come here to... some policemen actually came here to force their way into the facility. We haven't gotten a comprehensive statement from the police. Though there was a statement from Grace Iringekoko this morning, the spokesperson of the police command, she said in that statement that the Rivers State Police Command was acting on instruction from the fourth legal department, and that they were going to obey the judgment of the Federal High Court in not taking part in the election. And I raised the question with her, okay, fine. You're going to be withdrawing your men from taking part in the election. Does that also mean that you're going to prevent the election from holding? She said she was going to get back to us. So that incident occurred here at about 1 a.m., as I understand. And the governor was here alongside Victor Okojumbo, Edison Ege, Awaji Abiante, Sokari Good Boy, and a couple of other of his loyalists. And barely a couple hours later, they are here in full force with their supporters, and they are keeping watch to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself this morning. Howdy.
Charles, it would seem like the police has taken a position on whether or not to provide security for tomorrow's election. And what is the state government now saying in terms of security? How would security be provided if it's insisting that the election will go on as planned tomorrow?
The governor has, or rather the Risiek staff has said that the police is not the only security agency operating in the state. And they just left it at that. They didn't say whether or not they're going to be engaging the civil defense, the army, the navy, the immigration, or any other security agency. All they said was that the police is not the only security agency operating in River State. And so they are at liberty to engage any other security agency that they want to provide security for them for this election. So that's basically the situation here. There is still a level of uncertainty, lack of clarity about how security for this election is going to be provided. We don't know for a fact, but we know for a fact that they are determined that the election will hold. Good.
Well, it's a very interesting period. Not the kind of interesting that we really want to see. We expect that things go smoothly with that one. But Charles, thank you for that update. We understand that the governor was meant to address the statewide broadcast by 8 a.m. I don't know, has that happened? Do we know anything about that?
It's probably happening right now as I'm standing here. I'm standing in the rain in front of the Research office. So the broadcast is probably happening as we speak. So when I leave this place, of course, we'll definitely file that in. Saturday. And
Charles, we must commend you for that. Standing in the rain, ensuring Nigerians get a sense of what is happening in Rivers State. Thank you for your reportage. Please get back to us when you have more. Please stay safe as well amidst all of the back and forth in Rivers State. Our correspondent, Charles, providing us with live updates of the situation in Rivers State. But just in case you're wondering what played out at midnight, what did Governor Fubara say at that moment? He was quite livid. I would like you to listen to Governor Fubara's statement right after what he described as foiling the attempt of the police to take over Risik. We'll take a listen.
Letter with the judgments that we have to him, and what he's acting on is what he called the federal government, the judgment he got from the federal high court. The federal, even at that, if we should go by that, the judgment in the federal high court, did he say election should be bad? Lifu, that's that justice that gave that fraudulent judgment. Did he say no election? Rather, he technically said, don't provide. We don't need your security. We will provide our own security. After it happened in Anambra. Go away with your security. But this election must hold. If you like whatever it is you want to do, do it. The election result will be declared. People will be sworn in. I say it here. What kind of a country is it? And when it comes to the issue of River State, it becomes different. You're not ashamed of yourself. You call yourself the Nigerian police.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. I will be here. In fact, if I go back and I hear anybody, I will come here. This is my property. And you don't have any power whatsoever to bar me from entering it. Yes. Just try it. That part of your history as a very wicked and fraudulent Nigerian police will include shooting Fubara. Yes. I think I've given you enough respect. Well, let me say to all Rivers indigents, everyone residing in River State, election will hold. Yes. Yes. Election will hold. Yes. Anything that wants to happen, let it happen. We are here. We are here. I don't understand. I'm not going anywhere. Maybe fear anybody. All other states. So, everybody, just relax. Nothing is happening. We are ready. If we know that this is going to be the last fight, and we will take it to the end. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Of River State speaking in the early hours of today around Risik, that's the River State Independent Electoral Commission. People are keeping watch right in front of Risik. But we'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll give you some legal perspective to this as well as other issues around this particular one and national issues. In a moment, stay with us right here on The Morning Brief. You're welcome back. Staying with the political situation in Rivers State, things are getting really heated up. And to get some more insights, perhaps a legal angle, because a lot of this is actually legal. There's a political bit as well, but then the legal angle comes in and things are a bit confusing, might seem. So let's get some clarity. We're joined by legal practitioner, Mr. Enibe Effiong, who joins us virtually on the show this morning. Welcome to The Morning Brief. I know you've been watching what's playing out in Rivers State for months now. Yes, we'll talk about national issues, but seeing the court ruling, the judgment at the Rivers High Court, the Federal High Court, and looks like people are choosing which they would obey. The governor says there's already one from Rivers High Court, so that's what we're obeying. Others, the police saying that, well, we got an order from the Federal High Court. What do you see when you look at this? Which of the judgments should be obeyed? Which should not be obeyed? How should the people of Rivers really interpret this?
Thank you and good morning. I'm not sure if the order of my lord, the Honorable Justice Peter Alefo, is a final order or an interlocutory order. But what is important is that the Federal High Court had made some orders, including one barring the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from releasing the voters register for Rivers State to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. Now, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has stated clearly that they already have the state voters register and therefore do not require INEC to avail them of another one. Now, the court, the Federal High Court in this case, I haven't seen the order, but it is reported to have also ordered that the police should not accord security to the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. I'm also aware that the High Court of Rivers State had ordered the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission to proceed with the local government elections in Rivers State. Now, if my lord, my noble lord, the Honorable Justice Lifu, did not ban, prevent, or make an order of injunction saying that the election should not hold at all, I do not know the premise upon which INEC or the Inspector General of Police or any other authority or person will now seek to prevent the election from taking place. But if the court has said that the election should not hold at all, then we will now be faced with the question of what should happen as between the order of the High Court of Rivers State and the Federal High Court. But from what I know, I have stated what I understand the orders of the learned judge of the Federal High Court, Justice Lifu, to have been. Now, let us look at the matter further. The reality today is that, contrary to the constitutional provision of Section 7 of the Constitution that guarantees a system of democratically elected local government council, it guarantees and protects a system, I repeat, of democratically elected. The reality today is that we do not really have a system of democratically elected local government council. What these governors have basically done is to make a mockery of the Constitution, and I'm not speaking specifically about Fubara, across the 36 states of the Federation. I cannot find a single state today that one can say democratically elected local government council elections are taking place. What they basically do is coronation. They just sit down, write names, and what you find is that in a state governed by the APC, all the councillors, all the chairmen will be APC. In a state governed by the PDP, all the councillors, all the chairmen will be PDP. But in Rivers State, curiously, because of the internal wrangling in the PDP and the APC, it appears that loyalists of the governor have now moved, I think, to the APP or so. So do not be surprised that when the results are declared, if the election holds, it will be 100% just the way it is in the state where the governors are determining what happens. So I have reservations about the efficacy of our local government system. Now the Supreme Court had intervened to say that local government areas or councils that do not have democratically elected system should not enjoy federal allocation. It is on the basis of that judgment of the Supreme Court that these governors are desperately doing, organizing, these pretentious electoral exercises, these comic exercises in the name of election, just to have access to the local government allocation. That is what it is about. Now, regarding the conduct of the Inspector General of Police,
that seems to be the consensus about this flurry of conduct of local government elections across the country. But before we exit the Rivers matter, I'd like you to also speak to this foiled attempt by what the Rivers State government calls rogue policemen to take possession of the River State Independent Electoral Commission. We now understand that the police is abiding by the federal High Court order. But in abiding by the abiding by that order, should they have taken possession of the office of RCEC or not provide security as the court ordered? I'd like you to interpret what the police has done in this, in light of the circumstances.
I think Nigerians should brace up and accept the reality that the current Inspector General of Police, IGP Betoko, has behaved more like a politician. And if you look at his antecedents, since he was appointed as the acting IG and later confirmed, and then his tenure extended in controversial circumstances by President Tinubu, this IG has not hidden his willingness to offer the powers of his office or the instrument of his office for partisan outcomes or partisan gains. And I say that with all sense of responsibility. I do not think this IG is non-partisan. I do not think this IG is a disinterested party, because if the order of the court does not say go and prevent the election from taking place, what you are doing is even an affront on the learned judge. But I must take very strong exception, I repeat, very strong exception to the language of Governor Fubara. No matter how infuriated, no matter how irritated you are, you do not refer to the order of a court as fraudulent or refer to the decision of a learned judge as fraudulent. At best, you can appeal against it, but you do not speak in that manner against the order of a judge. However, the role of the IGP in this matter is questionable, because by virtue of section 287 of the Constitution, the order of the Federal Court is binding on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, when you go further to look at the role and the powers of the Inspector General of Police under the Constitution, specifically section 215 of the Constitution, the IGP, of course, acts on the directive of the President. But enforcing the order of a court, you cannot enforce it outside the terms of that order. So if you are saying you want to take over, I don't even know what they mean by take over. It is a military language that you want to take over the premises of the River State Independent Electoral Commission. Is there an express order of court mandating you to do so? If there is none, then you are acting as an outlaw. You are acting as somebody that has no regard for his office, and that kind of behavior stands condemned. We must find a way to insulate our institutions from partisan issues. I had concern when the president extended the tenure of this idea and even came out to tell Nigerians his history with President Tinubu, how he has gained favor from this president. So it does appear that this Inspector General of Police is so far determined to yield himself and his office for partisan gain. But we must remind the IG that people have occupied that office before him, and one day he will vacate that office, and what will history remember him for? If the court say don't provide security, then people don't provide security. But it's not for you to go and say whatever they are calling an election should not take place. That is outside the purview of the order of the court, and that has no legal basis. So if the governor is insisting that the order did not prevent the election from taking place, the IG has no business interfering in the process outside the tenure and the purview of the order of the learned judge of the Federal High Court. But I must say on record once again that the governor has no reason, has no justification to use deprecatory language on a judge of the Federal High Court or any judicial officer for that matter. Finally, on the point, we really need to ask ourselves a very pertinent question. Should local government be a tier of government that is functioning on its own? Because what we have currently is a mockery. Guess what? At the end of the day, billions of public funds would have been dissipated in the name of the karat, the shenanigan that the governors call local government elections. At the end of the day, we don't really have elections. The governors sit in their government houses, write names, hand them over to the state electoral commissions, and they announce, and everybody goes to sleep. This is not how to build a democracy. And that is why some of us have expressed reservations about state police. Imagine if we have state police in River State today.
Right.
What would have happened is that Fubara would have ordered his own state police to engage the federal police. That can lead to a bloodbath because governors have demonstrated lack of capacity.
Right.
Lack of capacity to abide by the rule of law. I am not saying that the president is any different.
Right.
I am not saying that at the federal level there is any regard for the rule of law. But we must begin to respect our institutions. We must begin to insist on democratic principles and ensure that governors and the president and the police and every institution of the Nigerian state abide by the rule of law, respect the constitution, and submit to the judicial process.
Well, anyway, I'm glad we at least touched on the constitutional bit of this conversation, and I'm hoping that all of these incidents will guide the constitution amendment process. We've not even talked about this rotational presidency bit, but we have to anchor at this point. Clearly, the issue in Rivers State is now on the front burner, as it should be. But we have to thank you so much for providing your interventions on this one. I know legal practitioners will be split on this issue, but Inibe Effiong, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll give you more, perhaps the view of young Nigerians on what Nigeria is really about, the beauty of the country. After all, the president has said there will be a national confab from there. But we're going to look at this from the viewpoint of a beauty queen, a teenage beauty queen, that is. That's in a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. And so we switch gears now away from the hard talk to something soft as we engage a young Nigerian who's doing something amazing. Let's welcome a beauty queen, Miss Gift Ilovoge. She's a model and Miss Teen icon for Nigeria, at least for the next few hours before you hand over.
Yeah.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ma.
Okay,
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Thank you, Ma.
And you look beautiful.
Thank you. You look beautiful. So,
thank you.
Women supporting women. I love this. Just go ahead. Let's do the show.
You look good.
Thank you. That's okay.
So you got your share.
One.
So tell us, Gift, about Miss Teen Icon, about your experience as you represented Nigeria.
Okay, the Miss Teen Icon is wonderful. It's actually an experience I would never forget because it's a dream come true. Actually, getting the visa was quite thoughtful because it wasn't easy. I was actually on visa on arrival. I thought there would be discrimination due to my skin color, but luckily from the airport to the people in Cambodia, they were so loving, they were so welcoming. I loved Cambodia. Actually, the weather is almost to Nigerian weather, so it's very, very hot there. So, but due to the AC and Cambodia was really welcoming, and I loved it. Thank you.
Beautiful. And I see you're dressed in Nigerian colors, green, and I imagine this is to tie into the independence celebration.
Yeah.
And this is why we're having this conversation, right? You're a beauty queen, a teenage beauty queen. And I know a lot of people probably didn't know that there was anything about, there was any pageantry for teenagers, right? So you represent a generation that naturally will lead Nigeria in a matter of maybe years or even less. And you're leading in some sense. So I'm always curious about how you view Nigeria, what your perception of Nigeria is, and what you want Nigeria to be. They always say the beautiful ones are not yet born, but
that's continually now a far cry from the truth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have the beautiful ones with us, and we imagine that you have a dream for Nigeria. You have a vision. So what do you even see Nigeria as? You're seeing what's playing out in PHarcourt, Rivers State. You're wondering what's going on. You're seeing what's happening at the national level. So what's your view of Nigeria?
Okay, Nigeria is actually a beautiful country. It's where I'm actually blessed and proud to be a Nigerian. So,
in spite of all of the drama you see, right?
Yeah, I'm actually proud to be a Nigerian, which I'm grateful for. And Nigerian, most especially teenagers out there, that's actually what I stand for. Do not believe in themselves, do not love themselves for who they are. So I actually noticed that it's actually common in Edo State where I'm from. Most teenage girls out there do not love themselves, do not accept themselves for who they are. So I was able to reach out to some kids, to some teenage girls, to always love and accept themselves for who they are, because self-love spreads love. That's actually what I believe for.
So, Gift, tell us what you now see the Miss Teen icon as representing? I imagine, there must have been, a huge weight on your shoulders as that you're carrying Nigeria when you represented Miss Teen icon. So for you now, what would you be using this huge symbolism for, beyond the representation?
Please, I don't understand. Can you come again?
What does this
icon
title now stand? What does it represent for you?
Okay, the Miss Teen Icon International is all about seeking beauty in teenage girls, most especially teenage girls, which I stands for teenage girls out there who do not love and accept themselves for who they are. So that's what the Miss Teen Icon International is all about, seeking beauty in teenage girls, bringing their potential back to life, bringing their dream back to life. That's all about what the teenage girl is and the Miss Teen Icon is all about for. And I'm actually using the Miss Teen Icon International to reach out to teenage girls out there, not only in my country, in other countries, to always love and accept them. So they should look at me and be like, yes, she did it, so I can do it. So that's what I'm using the Miss Teen Icon. And actually, I've been able to reach out to teenage girls. Like I said, I've been able to spread love by giving out food to the less privileged, that's in Edo State, going to schools, teaching young girls to always love and accept themselves, because loving yourself is the greatest gift of all. So I've been able to reach out to girls, not only in my country, in Cambodia. And so I was able to see some few contestants they were actually competing to, and they were like, I was feeling the struggles with them, and I was like, you guys should always love and accept. You guys accepted me, so I want you to accept yourself, because loving yourself is the greatest gift of all. Thank you.
I'm curious about what your dreams are. So I imagine you're done with secondary school.
Yeah.
Definitely. So are you going to study, or are you studying already?
I just gained admission. Yeah.
So what course are you studying?
Sociology.
Sociology, right?
Yeah.
So that's a 4-year. Are you in a private university, or before I say 4 years?
State.
It's a state university,
Yeah.
So that's 4 years, give or take, hopefully. So tell us what your dreams are beyond the pageantry.
Okay.
I know this has given you something, has equipped you to believe in yourself, as you've said. So what is a dream for you, personal dream, and also the national dream? Because I imagine you also want to contribute to Nigeria.
My dream has always been a flight attendant. That's actually been my dream. But I also love pageantry. I'm a big fan of pageantry, which I started pageantry at a very young age, at the age of 14. So, but due to low funds and the government, they actually have no idea of what pageantry is all about, and they're actually not willing to support the pageantry world. I believe the government should please put more interest in pageantry, and that's all. Thank you.
So for you said you were handpicked to represent Nigeria at the Miss Teen Icon. So it wasn't a distraction, just for you to participate. It meant more for you, right?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it meant more for me because it has always been my dream, and it was not something that was a distraction. It was never a distraction to me because I loved pageantry. Is what has always been my dream, right from my kid till now. It's still been my dream.
So was it a miss for you when you didn't win, and what do you think about the overall winner?
Okay, so I saw other contestants with their A game, with their support from government, which I actually traveled to Cambodia alone. There was nobody, my national director was not with me, so I went there alone. And seeing the contestants, I was actually a bit discouraged because other contestants came with their full A game. They came with support from their government. They came with people. They came with hairstylists. They came with their national director. But actually, I was there alone, and I was a little bit discouraged.
So you were your own hairstylist?
Yes, I was
and your own makeup artist.
Yes, I was the hairstylist. I was the makeup artist. I was the one doing everything myself.
Even your costume.
Yes,
it's turned out to be amazing.
Thank you so much. So I actually went there alone, which was actually not easy for me, but thankfully I had a wonderful family, a supporting family, and the Mr. Nigeria agency that actually stood by me. They were just calling me to know how I was faring and how I was doing over there. The competition was tough, but I'm grateful.
So what do you think about the overall win? I'm interested in knowing that. One Shakila.
Yeah, Shakila. Yeah, she's beautiful. She's lovely. I actually saw it from the start that she was going to win the Mr. Icon International because she has what it takes, and I love her so much. She was so lovely. I actually missed her. Shakila, if you're saying this, I miss you so much. I missed her so much. She's actually worth the crown, and I'm happy for her.
Beautiful. We see what you're doing here with young children around you, and I think this is very inspirational.
Thank you.
People wait till they are much older, in their 30s, 40s, or 50s before they give back. But it's beautiful to see. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 20.
You're 20.
Yeah.
So the age range for you competed at what age?
19.
Right. So you were still a teenager, then, which is why you're given your crown.
Yes.
Because you finished your tenure. So speak to us about this. What is this about? What kind of impact did you make, and how can people also replicate this wherever they are? Did you have to spend a lot?
No, not a lot. Thanks to the Mr. Nigerian pageant, which actually supported me with this.
Okay.
So the Mr. Nigerian pageant is all about, you can see, beautifully driven, and self-love spreads love. That's all what the Mr. Nigerian pageant is all about. And about this is for me to give out to the people, because I actually noticed we see not only teenagers, we people out there, Nigerians are actually struggling a lot. So, and this place, I just feel that I could start from somewhere. Even if I'm unable to reach out to everybody, I could actually start from somewhere. So the little I can, that's why I give it out to the people. So it's not a big deal for me. It's just the little I have, then I give it out to people.
And that's quite generous of you. It's commendable, because you could have gone ahead to take away all of the rewards that came from your representation to spend on yourself alone, but you decided to extend that love to younger girls.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, what are the benefits that come to a Miss Teen Icon from the organizers of the pageant in Nigeria? And in addition to that, what would be your counsel, that's your advice to the young team that you're handing over the crown to tomorrow?
My advice to her is to always love and accept herself, because that's what I stand for. The Mr. Nigeria pageant is not just about wearing the crown or the sash. It's about reaching out to people. What you can do, what can you actually achieve with this crown as such? It's actually not just about the crown or the pretty face, or it's actually about what you stand for. That's all what the Mr. Nigeria is all about. So anybody that's actually going to win the Mr. Nigeria tomorrow, I want you to always love yourself, accept yourself, and also spread love out there to teenage girls, to youth, to mothers, father, anybody you can actually reach out to. I want you to always spread love.
Specifically now, how should she be preparing herself for the bigger international pageant?
How I actually prepared myself was loving myself first, because I thought there would be discrimination. People won't actually accept me for who I am, and there was actually no sponsors for me for the Mr. Icon International. Getting sponsors was really, really hard, but I got the money from my family and friends, because nobody was actually willing to sponsor me for the Mr. Icon International. It wasn't easy. It's actually an experience I would never forget.
Beautiful. And we look forward to seeing you do even greater things than your academics. Maybe in politics, who knows? Maybe you run for politics someday, but we have to thank you so much. I think it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. So see you on bigger stage. We'll be speaking with Gift Ilovogale, who's a pageant queen.
Hi.
freelance model. She hands over this crown tomorrow.
I'm actually inviting you all to the pageant.
Look forward to it.
And we hope that the next Miss Teen Nigeria flies the flag high and brings home the crown. Who knows? Anything can happen. But this is where we anchor on the program today and indeed for the week. We'll be back again next week. Thank you so much for being there. I am Bukola Koka.
Well, we need all of the love we can get. Either politicians, those in government, you and I. Let love do the decision. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Sunrise Daily is next, so stay with us. We'll give you more on the Rivers political situation. Goodbye.